Of systematic genocide.
Ali'nin 10 yaşındayken Filistin'de evi toprağa işgal edilerek sürgüne giden, sürgünde yaşamak, büyümek zorunda kalan Ali'nin yarattığı bir karakter. Arkası dönük çünkü dünyaya küskün, çünkü dünyanın sessizliğine, Filistin'de olup bitenlere, İsrail zulmüne kimsenin ses çıkarmamasına küskün. Küskün olmanın yanı sıra bir yere bakıyor, baktığı yerde orada yaşanan zulüm.
İstanbul'da ve kadem temsilciliği bulunan 55 şehirde hayır çarşıları açıyoruz bu vesileyle.
Sizleri de tüm geliri Gazze'ye gidecek hayır çarşımızdan alışveriş yaparak Filistin halkına destek olmaya bekliyoruz.
Kadem has always shown its solidarity with Palestine through various activities. We have organized several seminars and protests to raise awareness and to uplift the Palestinian community.
So at the last covering in Gaza, actually, of course, like there is the Israel occupation, they use the AI for attacking the people and the women in Gaza. And this conference, the Kadem, and I want to thank like the management of this conference to give a chance like for a Palestinian voices like to raise here to talk more about how the occupation using the AI like for the crimes.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to be here. I'm really excited to be back in Istanbul, especially for this conference. A conference that is very timely, obviously, in addressing very important issues.
Biz bugün meydanlardayız. Filistinlilerle beraber olduğumuzu göstermek için, İsrail zulmüne dur demek için bugün meydanlardayız. En azından bu kadarını yapmak insan olan herkesin boynunun borcu diye düşünüyorum.
Esteemed brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. We are honored to have you with us this evening as we reflect on the Palestinian people's steadfast resistance through the lens of art. Welcome to this special gathering where we aim to understand and express the Palestinian genocide through the universal language of art. Under the theme, Art as a Form of Resilience in Palestine, we will once again affirm that art is not merely an aesthetic expression, but also one of the most powerful means of preserving identity and sustaining resistance. Following Kadem's In Solidarity with Palestinian Press statement and interactive installation in Times Square last year, we are delighted to convene once again, this time focusing on Palestinian art and cultural heritage as a testament to resilience. This evening's program consists of three main sections: opening and artistic performances, art and resilience panel, iftar and conversation circle. Dear guests, for us, Palestine is much more than just a geographical entity. Today, the world is witnessing one of the greatest injustices in human history, and remaining silent is not an option. As a testament to our unwavering solidarity, I now invite Associate Professor Saliha Okur-Gümrükçoğlu, Chair of Kadem, to deliver her opening remarks. The floor is yours, chairs.
Thank you. Dear all, I warmly greet you all with respect. Today, we have gathered here to support the just struggle of the Palestinian people and to solidify our bonds of brotherhood through the unifying power of art. We know that art is a powerful force that allows people to express their emotions and helps others understand them. Despite all the tragedies they have endured, the Palestinian people continue to harness the power of art, a remarkable lesson, a resilience and strength for humanity. We have learned and continue to learn invaluable lessons from this honorable stance. Palestine's cultural heritage continues to serve a powerful tool of resistance, allowing the voices of the oppressed to be heard. And today, through the works of Palestinian artists, we will once again bear witness to this heritage. Palestine is not a geographical entity. It is a symbol of resistance, hope, and unwavering faith in freedom. Palestine is not only the concern of the Palestinian people, it is a test for all humanity, a cause for Muslims, and a sacred trust. The historical ties between Turkey and Palestine remain strong today through unwavering solidarity. I would like to emphasize, especially since the beginning of the Israel attacks on October 7, His Excellency President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has consistently voiced his support for the Palestinian people on every single platform. He has assumed every responsibility necessary to achieve just and lasting peace and to implement a comprehensive solution. He has engaged in intense international diplomacy to secure a ceasefire and has mobilized all available resources to deliver humanitarian aid to the region. Likewise, Her Excellency First Lady Ms. Emine Erdoğan has been the voice of the people of Gaza on the international stage. With the support of our state, the concerns of our nation, and the efforts of civil society organizations like ours, we continue to uphold Palestine's just cause. As you know, Kadem is a civil society organization in Turkey that works in the field of women's rights. We have raised our voices with relentless determination on every platform, exposing and denouncing Israel's brutal crimes and war crimes in Gaza. We have filed a criminal complaint against Israeli government and military officials before the International Criminal Court. Last year, at the UNCSW 68 session, we organized a side event, Invisible Structure and Behavior, Being a Woman in Palestine, at the United Nations headquarters. Activists, journalists, and experts discussed the impact of the prolonged occupation and genocide in Palestine, particularly on women's life, their spirit of freedom, and their resilience. As you already saw in the video, we brought global attention to the genocide in Palestine with an interactive installation in Times Square, amplifying the voices of brave women of Palestine. The event displayed scarves in the colors of Palestinian flag hung on poles, symbolizing the women of Gaza. As the participants took off the scarves, the Palestinian flag made with the traditional tatrees became visible, highlighting the resilience of Palestinian women. The message, in solidarity with Palestinian women, echoed from Times Square. We have also created content advocacy for the boycott of products supporting Israel and have worked through social media and failed campaigns to explain this boycott. Additionally, we have organized conferences, seminars, marches, and protests in our 55 representative offices in support of the Palestinian people. I'd like to emphasize that our efforts to support Gaza will continue, and we are also planning for the post-ceasefire period. There is a critical need for healthcare support in Gaza. Therefore, we are focusing on initiatives to support doctors, midwives, and healthcare workers. Moreover, we have planned to provide artificial intelligence training for young girls and women in Gaza, aiming to empower them in the digital field. All these efforts are the testament to our determination and commitment to supporting the Palestinian people's just struggle. I hope this gathering will further empower our solidarity, and I reaffirm our commitment to continue her struggle for a free and just future for Palestine. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to esteemed artists who have contributed to our program tonight, and to our honored guests who have joined us. Thank you.
I sincerely thank Associate Professor Gümrükçioğlu for her meaningful words. We have another video right now. As art is one of the most profound forms of human expression, Palestinian women too use art to convey both their suffering and their hopes to the world. In this session, we will focus on the stories of two Palestinian female artists from different parts of Palestine. Emel Abu Siba, a 25-year-old painter from Gaza, reveals hope amid the ruins of war by creating breathtaking murals on shattered walls. Sadin Tawil, a kanun player from Jerusalem, keeps both her pain and her resilience alive through music. These two Palestinian women not only perform their art, but also share how they sustain their existence through artistic expression. Now, let's watch a short documentary showcasing their powerful stories.
أمل أبو السباح فنانة تشكيلية بعيش في غزة، ببلغ من العمر 25 سنة. أنا قبل الحرب كنت بدرس جامعة. قصتي أنا قصة بنت عندها حلم وعندها موهبة وعندها مهارات وعندها مواهب كتير، لكن الموهبة هذه اللي أنا عندي ضلتني فيها، وأجت الحرب وضلتني مصممة عليها، وما خليت أي ظروف من الحرب اللي أنا مريت فيها تأثر علي. جيت على مكاني في غزة بعد انتهاء الحرب سنة ونص، طبعا بعد 10 نزوح. لما وصلت بيتي طبعا دخلت البيت كان مليان ركام. طبعا في تحرير غزة، تحرير بلدي، مطلوب من كل امرأة بهذا البلد انه هي تأدي هذا الدور، شو ما كانت مهارتك، شو ما كانت موهبتك، شو ما كانت مهنتك. والفن بالنسبة إلي بعتبره كسلاح وكدفاع عن بلدي. لكن احنا على اي حجر ممكن نبين ابداعنا، بنوصل رسالتنا. هذا العالم بيحتاج انه ينضج، بيحتاج حاجه انها هي تصحيه، توعيه عن هذا الاشي اللي بصير. انا بفني انا وبريشتي وبالواني وبكل اسلوبي، سواء فن سواء كتابه سواء شو ما كان الفن اللي عندي، بدافع عنها، ببعد عنها اي ظرف صعب. بحب الفن وبحب أعبر فيه، وحتى يجي هذا اليوم اللي أنا اسمي يوصل لكل العالم. إحنا من أبناء هذا الشعب، من أبناء هذا البلد، دورنا إن إحنا ندافع عن هذا البلد بالأسلوب اللي إحنا بنعتبره قوي، سواء كان فن، سواء كان طب، سواء كان أي علم، أي مجال من العلم، كل هذا بيساعد إن أنت ترفع من قيمة بلدك. وإحنا في بلدنا هذا غزة دامت من زمان، يعني لها فترة بتتعرض من حصار. الحصار هذا طبعا بأثر عليها وبأثر على شبانها وبأثر على فتياتها والنساء خصوصا. إنه الرجال ممكن تطلع لبرا بكل سهولة، لكن النساء هي اللي بتعاني. طبعا يوم 8 آذار بالنسبة لنا النساء يوم كتير عظيم، فأنا بطلب من كل النساء المجتمعات بهذا اليوم 8 آذار، اليوم العالمي للمرأة، إنه إحنا نكون متعاطفين مترابطين مع بعض، إنه أنت تكوني متأصلة مع نساء مع المرأة الفلسطينية بشكل كتير قوي، وما تتنازل عن هذا الترابط، لحتى إحنا نوصل رسالتنا بشكل عام وبشكل أقوى بفضلكم أنتم. اكتب اسمك يا بلادي عالشمس الما بتغيب، لا مالي ولا ولادي، على حبك ما في حبيب.
مرحبا، اسمي سدين طويل وعمري 18 سنة، من سكان سلوان حي البستان. وطبعا الاشي ما كان سهل علي اني ابلش اعزف آلة، بالذات اني ساكنة بحي معرض للتهجير وللهدم، فكان الإشي شوي بوتر. وصرت أفكر من ناحية إيجابية أكتر، إنه ممكن أوصل من خلال الموسيقى رسالة إنه زي تحرير، إنه في بهذا المكان في أمان، في تعليم، يعني في حياة، فإنه مش لازم يتهجر. مثل ما الموسيقى اللي بعزفها تعطيني شعور بالحرية وبالأمان، بتمنى كمان هذا الشعور إنه أعيشه بشكل عام ببلدي كمان، إنه أشوف بلدي متحررة، نمشي فيها بأمان بدون توتر، مثل ما بنعزف، إنه وإحنا بنكون قاعدين بنعزف بنحس بأمان وتخفيف توتر. نفس الإشي، نفس الشعور حابة أعيشه مثلا وأنا ماشية ببلدي، حابة إنه أحس بشعور الحرية. بنقل رسالة لجميع نساء العالم إنه نكون إيد واحدة ونحاول نوقف التهجير والهدم وكل إشي عماله بيصير هون.
Painting and music. We have just witnessed how these art forms play a crucial role in resilience. Now we will continue with another form of powerful resilience of expression, poetry. The words, in their most refined form, capture the essence of Palestinian resilience. Zeina Azzam will speak now, and we will listen to her. The floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Good evening to all of you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm delighted and especially grateful to come back to New York at the kind invitation of Kadem for this Palestinian solidarity event that features artists and activists. I feel the solidarity and the allyship very deeply and your warmth. It's lovely to be here with all of you at Turkish House. Special thanks to Professor Saliha and to my sisters Betul and Nurbanu. Thank you. And it's such a pleasure and an honor to be with you to mark the breaking of the fast on this night of Ramadan. Thank you for inviting me to share in the gifts of this holy month. I know this month is one of fasting and prayer and increased spirituality, and it's also a time to gather with families and friends, and I'm happy to be included in this lovely community gathering. I have a few poems to share with you tonight. I will offer a brief introduction to each one to give you some background and context. I'd like to start with a poem about my immigrant experience to the United States. My parents were Palestinian refugees who fled to Syria during the war and the Nakba in 1948, and then to Lebanon some years later. We left Beirut when I was 10 years old, and we immigrated to the US. It was a difficult time in my family's life, and looking back, I know I felt like I lost everything I knew. Immigrant. I grew up eating cheese with bitter olives, sesame and thyme-infused olive oil on warm bread. Names in my family all meant something, like lifelong challenges. Zeina, beautiful; Bahij, splendid; Fatih, victorious; Samih, forgiving. In my childhood books, words flowed from right to left. Direction didn't matter then. At 10, we traveled east to west against time. I gained 7 hours of youth, lost my compass. In New York, no sea to swallow the sun each day. Foods were sweet in America. People spoke as fast as they walked. Everything was large: washing machines, supermarkets, even bananas and red grapes. We settled in this vast, cold place with neither boots nor a sense of how to be warm. Snowfalls were beautiful and cruel. The freezing air slapped our faces each morning. Inside, there was a smell of garlic and onions on the stove, loud talking over the phone with relatives overseas. My family inhaled and exhaled politics like cigarettes all the time. We blamed the British, the Americans, Arab leaders, Zionists, communists, or a history that was simply unkind. The TV in the background reported news in a language we spoke but did not really understand. All this over a good meal always, as if the hunger was in our bellies and not in our hearts. Thank you. Thank you. The title of my book, Some Things Never Leave You, comes from a poem I wrote about my mother, who lived until age 95. I think often about the life of refugees, like my parents, and how their refugee stories and experiences age with them, how they live with this pain and of the dispossession that they experienced early in their lives. Late in her life, my mother started to hallucinate that someone was trying to take over her home. I couldn't help but think that this connected deeply to her early trauma of becoming a Palestinian refugee and having to flee and leave everything and her home behind. A refugee grows old for my mother. She is surprised by the pink cyclamen in the pot, examines the foreign petals upswept as if reaching toward another place. Her own journey seems muted now, details as far away as her childhood in Palestine, where in one scenario she would have lived in the same place until great-grandchildren played around the lemon tree that defined her family's house in scent and space. Where in the real scenario, she fled for her life with a husband and baby, in her pocket a key that rusted over the years. Her memories are like henna on a hand, splendid arabesques fading each day until gone. She has covered so many miles by boat, plane, car, on foot, measured by oceans and clouds, gas fumes, tattered flags left behind, driver's licenses, rental agreements, goodbyes to friends and family, a lifetime unanchored, cleaved. She continues to worry that someone is plotting to take away her home, while slowly hunching over a downswept, bent flower weighed down by hallucinations. She knows some things never leave you, so you have to leave them yourself. takes small steps away, looking for some peace. Thank you. Here's another poem about mothers, and it's not by me, it's by Maya Abul Hayat, who is a Palestinian poet, essayist, and novelist, children's book writer. She lives in Jerusalem and works in Ramallah, and I really love her work. It's Maya Abul Hayat. I wanted to read this poem by her to mark Women's History Month and to pay special attention to the lives of mothers. She says in this poem that mothers lift up the house beams. The title of the poem is Mothers Arrange Their Aches at Night by Maya Abul Hayat, and this was translated from the Arabic by Fadi Judah. Joint pain, high sugar, rheumatic ailments, a boy who missed school because of a cold. Mothers feel sadness for mysterious reasons, like sadness over other mothers who stand in public streets holding photos of their sons' well-groomed faces with sideburns and mustaches, waiting for the cameras to capture them and their chapped hands. Mothers who hold up the house beams, open windows, air out carpets on roofs, expel moths from the hearts of abandoned mattresses in case a visitor arrives. Mothers who stipulate no conditions for return, arrange their aches at night, and wash their daughters' hair with oil. In bed, they toss and turn, and when they fall asleep, they snore and give the house a name and a voice. According to the non-governmental organization in Palestine called Ad-Damir, it's a prisoner support and human rights association. As of this month, March 2025, Israel is holding 9,500 Palestinian political prisoners. This includes administrative detainees, child prisoners, women, Palestinian Legislative Council members, and many others. Incarceration of Palestinians is a tremendous burden on Palestinian society, and issues of torture and arbitrary detention are documented widely. Here's a poem I wrote that was inspired by a painting by Ingi Aflatun, an Egyptian feminist and visual artist who painted images depicting injustice in society. Her painting is titled Dreams of a Detainee, and if you can visualize it, it's a woman sitting on the floor of a prison, holding on to the prison bars and looking out. In my small sky. If I reach outside these bars, will my arm find freedom? Will my palm pretend float on my breath like a lark, a wave in my small sky? If I think deeply about you in your cell, will our visions of open chains interweave? Will two threads mesh as a coiling helix and embrace? If I chew this stale bread long enough, will its taste conjure the wheat fields and farmers in my village, bending sunward from rising to setting, guided by toil and light? If I pull the pins from my hair, will that feeling of lightness cascade down my back, wash over me like a waterfall, clear, unfettered, escaping the river? If I gaze hard at the faraway wall, will my eyes relearn how to focus beyond the bars, strain to see more than dirt, stains, rats, gray water, a scab, remember a generous cloud? If I turn away from my jailer, will jasmine from my garden visit me? Will I plant it behind my ear? will words blossom in my throat to write a new anthem for my country. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your attention. I appreciate it very much. Here's another poem about incarceration. I really wanted to throw some light on the prisoners, the Palestinian prisoners. And this poem is actually by the late Mahmoud Darwish. It's very short. As you're well aware, Darwish is the national poet of Palestine. And he was imprisoned many, many times by Israel in his lifetime. He wrote the following poem during one of those times. I'll read the English first, and then I'll read it also in Arabic. Prison by Mahmoud Darwish. The address of my house has changed, and the time when I eat changed too, the amount of my tobacco, the color of my clothes, my face, the look of me. Even the moon, so dear to me here, has become larger, more beautiful, and the smell of earth, perfume, and the taste of nature, sugar. It's as though I am on the roof of my old house, and a new star has riveted itself upon my eye. السجن. تغير عنوان بيتي وموعد أكلي ومقدار تبغي تغير ولون ثيابي ووجهي وشكلي وحتى القمر عزيز علي هنا صار أحلى وأكبر ورائحة الأرض عطر وطعم الطبيعة سكر كأني على سطح بيتي القديم ونجم جديد بعيني تسمر. Thank you. I'll carry through with the theme of the moon. On October 28, 2023, 3 weeks into its war on Gaza, Israel cut off all power to Gaza. As a result, Gaza lost contact with the outside world amid reports of intensified bombardment. The phone lines and the internet and the mobile networks all were cut off completely. I noted that on October 28th, it was also the night of the full moon. And I wrote this poem after I read accounts of the experiences of people living through that horrific time after the fact. Here is Full Moon, October 28, 2023. For 2 nights, O moon, you granted the only light for us to find each other after the flares of the airstrikes consumed our homes and streets, and the ceilings and walls broke our bones, buried our weary bodies. We used to sing with Feiruz that you are our neighbor, how you rise over the hills and listen to our songs and stories. And here you are, a white pearl in the sky, reminding us of evenings when we could see you without warplanes and F-16s in our view. We held our children close all night, all day, all night again. We told them there was no water, bread had run out, that maybe tomorrow God would be merciful. We lifted our eyes to beseech you to search for God's light. No ambulance could hear our calls as hundreds of women and men and children were burned or crushed. We held a vigil for the dead, collected limbs, wiped blood from foreheads. We waited to die under your radiance. O moon, for those 2 nights of your fullness and luminescence, we depended on you to rise over the hills like an omniscient sentry. You were our only witness as you set in the sea in Gaza. Please tell the world our stories. Just have a couple of more poems for you. Doing okay on time? Everything okay? So as I mentioned, my parents are Palestinian refugees who fled to Syria during the war in the Nakba and then to Lebanon. Like all immigrants to another country, I have always felt that I live in two cultures and two languages. And although I used to view these spaces as sometimes conflicting, I learned that my experiences as an Arab and as an American, and especially as a Palestinian American, have been very profoundly enriching to my values and to my worldview. And I continue to wonder how one transmits a cultural identity to the next generation. I asked myself, have I given my children a good understanding of the culture that I grew up in? What will my grandchildren know and appreciate about our heritage and about our family story? So here's a poem that explores these themes. A language for colors. Asfar, she would say, pointing at a yellow tulip. And the color of grass? Akhdar. My young daughter had mastered not only the colors, but also the throaty KH, two letters in English that equal one in Arabic. I would tell her it's the same sound as in khamse, khubz, sabanakh, 5, bread, spinach, and my favorite name, Khalid, immortal. I once confessed to a friend wistfully that I would not name my son Khalid because Americans couldn't pronounce it. Now I wonder about such wisdom. Even my 8-year-old could constrict her throat muscles the right way to say Khalid, immortal like an ancient olive tree, a flame that never abates, a mother's love. This spring, I saw a patch of double hybrid tulips, asfar tinged with akhdar, and thought of my daughter's satisfied grin at learning those words thousands of miles away from her grandparents' home in Palestine. Here we are, hybrid Americans, living between two languages and speaking in colors, splendid flowers in a distant field. Thank you. I'll end with this poem. One of my favorite cookbooks is called The Palestinian Table. Has anyone heard of it here? Yeah. It's by Reem Qassis. And she talks about a 9-spice mix that is featured in many of the dishes in her book, and that the spice mix lends these dishes a uniquely Palestinian flavor. So I looked up the 9 different spices that make up this list and where they come from in the world. And I imagined how these spices from different countries all come together to uplift the Palestinian palate in solidarity with Palestine. 9-spice mix. First, they tango on my tongue, nimble couples careening, then together form an Arab-style line dance, stepping, stomping, swaying. West Indies allspice dazzles, berries tangling with cinnamon sticks, while cloves, Indonesian natives, lead with a spirited solidarity solo. Coriander seeds offer greetings in Hindi, as others toast comrades in languages beyond borders and blockades. Lifting up sisterhood, sun-wizened nutmeg starts a sibling dance with mace. Cumin demurs, then surprises with subtle exaltation. Queen of spices cardamom, host of the party, gives a nod to flavors in hiding, lemony, sweet, warm, fragrant, nutty, pungent, hot. Encouraged, feisty black peppercorns shimmy center stage, organizing the unique union of 9 for a vivacious global salute.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear Zeina. Through your impactful poetry, melodies, and visual art, we have once again affirmed our commitment to Palestinian resilience. The presence of each and everyone here, one of you tonight, we strengthened our shared commitment to Palestinian resilience and solidarity. Now we move on to the Art and Resilience panel. The session will be moderated by Dr. Betül Özel-Çiçek, Deputy General Manager at KADEM, who brings both academic depth and cultural insights. It's my honor to introduce our esteemed moderator. She degrees in English literature, Sufism, and comparative religion, and feminist theology. She has over 20 years of experiences in NGOs and currently serves as Deputy General Manager of KADEM. The floor is yours, our moderator.
Thank you, Nurbanu. Distinguished guests, esteemed artists, activists, and friends. Mahmud Darwish once said, "Every beautiful poem is an act of resistance." Tonight we gather here to share the stories of Palestinian resilience, cultural heritage, and artistic expression as a form of resistance. As you did see from the videos, for the Palestinian people, art is not merely a means of expression, but one of the most fundamental pillars of and means of their existence. In this context, one of the most powerful concepts of Palestinian identity emerges: sumud, steadfastness. For Palestinians, this word signifies an unyielding connection to their land, identity, and culture. Sumud is the determination to persist, to resist erasure, and to safeguard a heritage under threat. And in this struggle, art becomes one of the most powerful instruments of sumud. Palestinian artists, poets, artisans, and musicians do more than recount the past stories. They actively shape the future against all attempts of cruel destruction, against all the colonial barbaric mentality which brutally tries to destroy and silence their autonomy. They built a collective memory through art, ensuring that the world hears their declaration: "We are here, and if I must die, you must live to tell my story." So, we are here today to carry forward and upload the legacy entrusted to all humanity by Rifat Al-Arir. And this gathering also compels us to ask a critical question: how is art possible during and after a genocide? This question evokes the famous debate initiated by Adorno, one of the most significant thinkers of the 20th century. Adorno questioned the very possibility of art after Auschwitz, reflecting on how aesthetic creation could exist in the wake of such unimaginable atrocities. In his view, art was forever altered by genocide, forcing humanity to confront its own fragility and ethical responsibility. The answer to Adorno's question comes in the form of Palestinian art. Today, artists and people of Palestine move beyond Adorno's uncertainty, proving that art and beauty are not only for the good times. And art is not merely a means of narrating genocide. It's a force to resist it in the best human way possible. Palestinian artists do not create only to mourn the past, but to actively build the future. Their art is not confined to remembrance alone. It's a tool of defiance, survival, and reconstruction through hope and beauty. Thus, the Palestinian sense of hope is not merely an abstract dream. Their hope and their sense of beauty is a solid form of resistance, sumut that transcends pessimistic doubt. This hope is not just about enduring. It's about reclaiming existence, preserving art, and asserting identity against erasure. So, tonight's discussions, artistic performances, and testimonies are not just a part of a program. They are a record of history. We are keeping a record of history. Together, we hope to preserve Palestinian cultural heritage, help to rebuild the dreams and visions of Palestinian people, and strengthen international solidarity. As Kadem, we remain committed to supporting the spirit of sumut and the transformative power of art. I thank each and every one of you for being here today. And I hope this program will foster a profound sense of solidarity. It is my honor to introduce our distinguished guests. And our first speaker is a dynamic force in the intersection of comedy law, and cultural resistance, a storyteller who uses humor as a powerful tool against oppression. He's a Palestinian-American comedian, professor, writing, and cultural commentator. He's known for using satire and humor to challenge stereotypes, reclaim narratives, and amplify Palestinian identity in mainstream media. The floor is yours, Amer Zaher.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Kareem. Very honored to be with all of you here today, and thank you to Professor Saliha and Professor Batul and Nurbanu for putting this all together. I'm not sure I belong here, but I'm happy to be here. For Palestinians, art is not just decoration. It's revolution. It's our loud, unapologetic declaration that we are here and that we exist and that we refuse to be erased. From the strokes of a brush to the plucks of a oud, our art doesn't simply tell stories. It's not just about colors or melodies. Palestinian art fights battles. It centers on survival, and our art says to the world, you can take our land, but not our voice. And so the moment a Palestinian artist enters your aura, you're reminded that our existence is political. When Sulaiman Mansour paints the Holy Family, he's treating us not only to his technical mastery, but also to a history lesson, to a declaration of belonging. We don't just create for beauty, although what we create is beautiful. Our art is our weapon, and we wield it with precision, passion, and humor. And so we create because we must, because if we stop, we cease to exist. Now, comedy in its purest form is protest. I've learned that one of the best ways to get the world to listen to our suffering is to get them to laugh at the absurdity of it all. My comedy isn't just about jokes like Sulaiman's strokes. It's about survival, about speaking truth to power, as Edward Said told us, when the world would rather you stay silent. So as a comedian, I've seen how humor can cut through the noise, dismantle stereotypes, and reveal the absurdity of injustice. I want my audiences to laugh, but I also want them to think. Even if it's uncomfortable, in fact, especially if it's uncomfortable. And Palestinians are natural comedians, actually. I mean, you have to laugh when someone says there's no such thing as Palestine when they're standing in it. Our ridiculous reality is sort of the provocation to our comedy. So what do? We take that farce and we flip it on its head. Comedy lets us reclaim our narrative, expose hypocrisy, and remind the world that we're more than statistics or headlines. We are human beings with stories, struggles, history, and a pretty good sense of humor. But don't misunderstand me. Palestinian comedy is not just a coping mechanism. It is resistance as well. Every time I stand on stage and try to tell our story, I'm challenging the way people see us. I'm saying, look, we're not just a headline on the evening news. We are a real people with a real history and real struggles. And yes, I, as an unmarried 47-year-old Arab son, my mom might think that I'm L or G or B or T. I'm not. It's okay, but I'm not. Importantly, comedy is one of the few spaces also where we fully control the narrative, right? On a stage, there's no filter, there's no media outlet twisting my words, no politician framing me as a problem. It's just me and my microphone, and I get to tell our truth raw and unfiltered. And the truth can be hilarious, especially when you couple it with the preposterous stupidity of the Israeli occupation. I mean, when I saw Israeli soldiers prancing around in Gaza in women's lingerie, remember that? All I could think was, were they that surprised that our women wear lingerie? Like, do they know that little about us and our culture? I don't know if you've ever been to Palestine. It's probably the same thing in Turkey. But we have like proudly obvious lingerie shops on every corner in Gaza. It's true. Gaza, Jenin, Ramallah, Al-Khalil, Jerusalem, Bethlehem. We know it exists, but I guess they didn't know us. And I mean, didn't they notice we have a lot of kids? How do you think that happens? Lingerie. It's Ramadan, sorry. It's the truth. Comedy and all Palestinian art allows us to reach audiences who might not otherwise engage with us. Our humor is our resilience, and our ability to laugh in the face of oppression sticks with the audiences, because comedy brings people's guards down. And once their guard is down, I can hit them with a little bit of the truth, which is the truth is really all we have, but it's the most powerful weapon in the world. That's why we're all sitting here together in this room, because we have the truth. There's something deeply empowering about making the oppressor the punchline. So Palestinians have been painted as the villains in our own story, obviously, as we know. We've been dehumanized, demonized, dismissed. But on stage, the tables turn. We get to mock the joke of the occupation, the hypocrisy of politicians, and the sheer ridiculousness of the narratives weaponized against us. It's not just cathartic, although it is for us, but it's also revolutionary. Laughing at the occupation strips it of its power, right? I laugh at the occupation all the time. I remember when there were, it's happened many times, but maybe 6 or 7 years ago, there was a pretty strong hunger strike by 1,500 or 1,600 Palestinian prisoners at the same time. And as I looked at that, I wondered, it exposed to me how weak and stupid the Israelis are, because we think they're smart. They're not. They couldn't convince an Arab guy to eat. Like, do you know how easy that is? That is not hard. You know, do you know how many times I've been convinced to eat when I was not hungry? And these guys are hungry, and they were not able to convince them to eat. So we are not dealing with smart, intelligent people like they've been telling us all this time. In fact, you've seen all those photos of young men smiling when they're led away in handcuffs, right? There's a reason for that. You've seen the martyr's mother smile when she's walking in his funeral. There's a reason for that. It's called possessing the truth. So when you have the truth, you can do anything. I know that because I grew up with the truth. I'm not alone in this, like most Palestinians. So I was born in Jordan, and then we came to America when I was 3. And my dad had one sister. We were actually kicked out of, we fled to America. We came to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My dad only had one sister. A couple years later, she decided she wanted to come to America. My dad's father had passed away a few years before that. And so my grandmother was all alone in Amman. And as we know, we Palestinians and Arabs, we're not white. We don't like put our old people in homes. They come live with us, right? Until they die, and we put their picture on the wall. Those are the rules in our, it's the rule. No, if you walk into an Arab's house and there's a picture of an old person on the wall, you say, Allah yarhamu. They're not alive, you know? So my grandmother came, my grandmother came and lived with us. My grandmother was strong. She was ethnically cleansed from Jaffa in 1948. And she lived with us, with my mother, for 25 years. Let me repeat that to all the married women in the room. My father's mother lived with my mother for 25 years. Yes, my mom's going to heaven. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what kind of questions they ask you, but she's getting in. Inshallah. We had 7 people in our house, small Palestinian family, and we had 4 bedrooms. Me and my brother were roommates. My sisters were roommates. My parents were roommates. And my grandmother had her own room. And so every night after dinner, me and my brother Ahmad, we would go visit my grandmother because she would give us these cute little chocolate cupcakes that my mom would never buy this stuff for us. So, you know, your grandmother always gives you stuff that your mom doesn't give you, especially if she's your father's mother because she hates your mother. So we would go there and she would give us these chocolate cupcakes after dinner, but not before we paid a price. And the price was her stories from 1948 in Jaffa. And it wasn't a lot of stories. It was one story, the same story every night. She would lay on her bed and she would hold up 2 fingers and she would say in Arabic, "Alul nabtirja'u ba'd usbu'ain." They told us we could come back in 2 weeks. And we're still waiting. And that's how I know that we are going to win. Because we have the truth. Because my grandmother was the truth. I lived with the truth. There's a real power in that. Okay, we Palestinians are smart, but we are not smart enough to all individually tell the same lie for 75 years. We are telling the truth. And so finally, I hope that through our comedy, we build community. Because when we laugh together, we heal together. And comedy shows that I put on, they become spaces of solidarity, where Palestinians, Arabs, and other lovers of the truth can come together, share a laugh, and remember that we're not alone. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we still have our humor, our creativity, and our ability to connect with one another. And that's something that no occupation, no wall, and no amount of propaganda can ever take away from us. So yes, comedy is resistance. It's a way to fight back, reclaim our narrative, and remind the world who we are. We are a people with stories, with struggles, and with the ability to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Because if there's one thing Palestinians know how to do, it's survive. And when we survive with our sense of humor, we win. And when we win, we buy lots of lingerie. Oh, I'm done.
How would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I was going to ask. So maybe we do a show of hands. I'm your last presenter from the guests. Yeah. So I'm sure there'll be more, inshallah, from the Qadam team. So I would go into iftar time. Maybe we do a vote of hands.
Okay, yeah. We can continue after iftar if you prefer.
It's up to... Yeah,
it's up to 7:03 or 7:05?
7:05.
Oh, 7:05.
7:09?
For us, 7:10.
7:10. Okay.
Because it's 6:55.
So
6:55. Tamam.
Okay, so
Bismillah.
Yeah.
You like?
Let her do it.
I'm not gonna make it. So let me say this. I'm a lawyer. I talk a lot. I will try to speak quickly, but I really want you to hear what I'm saying. So show of hands, who will break their fast at the table before you get up in case I'm 3 minutes over? Raise your hand if you'll stay or if you want to go. It's
no problem.
Let them raise their hands. I do it for a reason. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. والصلاة والسلام على أرواح الشهداء والسلام على المقاومة الشريفة الطاهرة. And I count on all of you as both martyrs and freedom fighters. To be a martyr is to be a witness to the truth, because in that witnessing of the truth, we are then tested. And to be a freedom fighter means that we are challenging what has clearly been shown to be one of the greatest, most powerful, and unfortunately, most wicked projects of colonialism, industrialized sadism, in all of history, and not just
in modern history. I take a moment to thank the people of Qadam. I won't speak long. Thank you, Professor, as well. And a special thank you, of course, to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is not only for all he's done, and we have personal experience in this, but specifically also for the statement regarding no NATO exercises until the ceasefire holds, right? The open public, and this was very strategic, it's actually the bulk of the theory behind what I'll discuss, of hosting Allah Yarhamu, the Shaheed Ismail Haniyeh in Turkey and making it a public event. We have also, I've just come back from Istanbul, actually just yesterday, where we've been developing a new age of lawyering and tradition of lawyering, international, not just humanitarian. I don't believe so much in that. I believe there has to be a marriage and an advancement. And we did a legal and diplomatic delegation to Cairo that included a psychologist from Qadam, as well as other Turkish attorneys and forensics experts. And so for this and many reasons, I thank all of you and for having us. I do not speak very softly all the time. I do sometimes. And certainly, I don't think law and the lawyering in the traditional sense, or perhaps your understanding of it, is much associated with art. But I think the lawyers here will tell you that it is quite an art, actually. And we're trained. And language is an art. And as Arabs and Muslims, we understand it to be one of the highest forms of art. It takes bravery to be soft. It takes bravery to be rough. It takes bravery to exist. And it also takes bravery to make admissions, acknowledgements of how we came to this point, all of us. I count myself in this. In order for us to understand how we climb out of it. By no means material, religious, spiritual, reality, financial, is anybody in this room or any person seeking to maintain a modicum of humanity remotely unaligned organically with Palestine. I don't believe in romanticizing any people, especially not my people who are already so abstracted. But I will take a moment, especially at this moment of genocide, to articulate to the world, as I am very proud to do, but especially to my people, that I am incredibly proud to say in this blessed month that the Palestinians are indeed the people of prophets. More prophets born and buried in my town, in my village, in his town than anywhere else on earth. A people of peace and patience, of philosophy and poetry, the most hospitable people who were turned into hostages in their own homes because they believed in hope, because they believed in humanity. And I say this to say that this is a miracle of sorts, a nightmare of sorts, that how these people, unprecedented patience, you've seen what we've dealt with for 76 years, with humility, with grace, with silence, with self-censorship to make our friends and our allies comfortable, unprecedented patience. What happened that we've come here? Many things. I'll begin with where you left off, which is culture. There is something particular about the Palestinian culture and capacity for kindness that even became a lesson for the Israelis who are slaughtering our people, right? We are a culture that prioritizes the community and the other over the self. And we carry this tradition in the same way that we carry and keep alive the Quran. Primarily through word, through oral history, through stories, through language, through songs, through poems. We record where we lived, our injuries, how we survived them, how to survive them, right? And therefore, we've recorded what? We've recorded our legal claims. We've recorded our return. We've recorded the formula for resistance, and we've recorded the betrayal. And the betrayal happened
by a project that requires accepting two primary axioms, right? Number one, that discourse language, اقرأ باسم رب الذي خلق. This creates reality. Language that carries culture, that creates art, that keeps us alive, that teaches us to struggle. Discourse, language, creates reality. How? It is the lowest and highest stage of policy change. Policy change is codified by law and responsive to discourse. So this, what we do, literally creates reality. Number two, Palestinians and everybody else in the world has been the subject of a project of psycho, social, cultural, and legal engineering. And this engineering is very well crafted based on three strategies. Number one, DARVO, right? Deflect, accuse, reverse, victim, and offender, DARVO. Number two, trauma supremacy, which became code for two things: religious supremacy and erasure of Palestinian trauma. And number three, dehumanization and criminalization as a matter of law, which climaxed with the launch of the terrorism framework way back in the days. And it is through the question posed to me, it is through the globalization of the terrorism framework that the genocide, number one, was launched. I posit that this is the absolute moment of genocide, when our dehumanization became law, became a reward, a threat, and punishment. If you stand too close to me because I support the resistance, you now face threat. That is the beginning of the genocide. Moreover, this is also the beginning of the globalization of the genocide. So I answer question two that was posed to me. This psychosocial engineering is not an accident. This psychosocial engineering is a very clearly identified, calculated, coordinated project, similar to the conspiracies we deal with here in the US, like the mafia. How was the mafia caught? Through RICO, Racketeering, Influence, Corrupt Operation Act. It's a corrupt operation that leveraged this demonization, turned into law, aka terrorism, right? To now influence the world by threat and reward to create global institutional impunity. There is no recourse for Palestinians. They are not human. And if you stand too close to them, if you hold them too close, you too are now under threat. We expand this to now Islamophobia, because now if you remotely resemble Palestinians, you too are a terrorist. So it's no coincidence that 80% of Islamophobia movements are also Zionist. And so from here, right, now they have to look at you. It's not just the words that come out of my mouth. It's what she's wearing. It's the hatta that she's wearing. So everything has become criminalized, right? Our language, our words from the river to the sea, our culture, our stories of resisting communally, this poetry, what we do in the prisons, right? How we look becomes criminalized. And every Palestinian, I promise you, has known the very moment that somebody was too afraid to stand too close to us. Bas alhamdulillah ala kull hal. Now we're all in this together. Is time up? Okay. Okay, no problem. It's okay. I guess I've gone over time.
No, you didn't run over. We have to head Edan right now, and after Edan we will continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, please, don't be. You're fine. We're not. I'm coming back, but thank you. I'm not done. There's more. Thank you so much.
We're not letting you go anywhere.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعث مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. اللهم لك صمت وبك آمنت وعليك توكلت على rızkık afdart. Allah'ım senin rızan için oruç tuttuk, sana inandık, sana güvendik, senin verdiğin rızıklarla orucumuzu açıyoruz. Ya Rabbi tutmuş olduğumuz oruçları, ibadetleri katında kabul eyle. Ve ahiru da'vana elhamdülillahi rabbil alemin. El Fatiha.
Attorney and unwavering advocate for human rights. Is that so?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. My research says that you are a distinguished attorney and an unwavering advocate for human rights, particularly within the Palestinian and Arab community. Is that right?
That's part of the story. Yeah. You could just lawyer.
Okay.
Lawyer and advocate.
And your legal practice encompasses a wide range of areas, including civil rights, criminal defense, and immigration law, I think. No, not at all?
I mean, many years ago, but that's not, yeah, that's not.
So you were not born in Nablus?
I am born in Nablus.
Okay, so 1 in 3?
Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please do so.
So my name is Hamisti. I'm from actually Hawara, Nablus. You might have, Hawara has a very long history. I'm an I'm very loud. I don't need a microphone.
I think for the recording.
He said I'm very loud. So I've been an organizer for 25 years and a practicing attorney for 21 years. I began my legal practice doing a lot of the national security, terrorism, post 9/11 cases in the criminal sector, in the civil sector, in the commercial sector. And I am also, oh, sorry. Thank you so much for opening my bottle. I've since shifted to more, it doesn't matter what I've shifted to. So I think that covers it. So I'm an attorney mostly in private practice. Since the genocide, I've continued some of my compliance practice, but 90% has been focused and dedicated solely to Palestinian legal and diplomatic work. I'll talk a little bit about the PAL Commission while everybody eats. So we launched the PAL Commission on War Crimes, Justice, Reparations, and Return. And alhamdulillah, subhanallah, in a little over a year, we've managed to open legal teams and diplomatic teams in 29 countries. I still don't know how that's happened. We have 5 forensics and investigative teams working on a little bit of what I'll discuss today, this RICO operation in the settler sales, media, soldiers, private companies, and war companies. So that's what we're doing now. I've been based mostly out of Istanbul since the genocide. It's been my second home. Should I keep going? Should we do slapstick from Amer?
Slapstick.
Not slapstick comedy, sorry. But you did just have a slapstick moment just now.
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't.
Side and globalize the power of Zionism, but also was the biggest blow to the cultural destruction and erasure of Palestinians. All of this coordinated. Trillions of dollars coordinated, calculated, mapped out in the most, this is literally the most asymmetric war in all of history. It's never been the case that the world's nuclear powers, largest military powers, have all coordinated against the most impoverished financially, the most disarmed people also in the world. We look at the power of this at the beginning of October 7th, aside from launching the weapons, the retaliation, what was the first thing that Israelis did? Does anybody know? Aside from launching military war, what was the first thing the Israelis did at the very same time they launched military war? Anybody know? No. They had a closed room workshop that cost millions of dollars to craft out the language, the story, the culture that they would spread about us. This then became what? This then became policy. This then became war. This then mobilized genocide for as long as they could do it. Very coordinated, very calculated, millions of dollars. So I want to stress again the importance of discourse, how it becomes language, how it becomes culture, society, law, policy, war. The first shot fired in any war is the discursive shot. I can't kill you physically until I kill you culturally, psychologically, verbally. Tie that once again to the launch of the terrorism framework internationally, sanctions. Look at the world now. BRICS, Turkey, alhamdulillah, their statement on NATO, their alignment, increased alignment with BRICS. This is critical work that all began with words. All of this said, the most asymmetric war, trillions of dollars, and yet, alhamdulillah, we're winning. Why? There's also a scientific reason for that. We are in a war of attrition. The Zionists have reached, the Israelis have reached their cap of the formula. They can't get any bigger. There's nothing more that you can do once you've committed genocide, right? There's no other hall of power that you can control that you haven't controlled already. So any gain we make decreases their power. But there's something more particular and scientific about what's happened. And that's what we've seen is a structural shift. We've seen globally a structural shift. That structural shift is a result of the discursive shift. When discourse shifts, power shifts, culture shifts, and law shifts. So we're still catching up to the law part, but we've reached those two stages. The shift of discourse, the shift of culture, next will come policy. And we're seeing that. So we are winning in the courts of law. We have absolutely won in the court of public opinion. How did we do that? This is where it becomes important that we understand that bravery and softness and strength is more critical now than ever. I think the most important way that that has happened has been specifically as a result of the Palestinian resistance and, of course, Palestinian resilience. But I want to harp a little bit on Palestinian resistance. It was the first time that the world was forced to witness, truly witness, the beauty of Palestinian culture. To be reminded that we are the people of prophets, that we represent a piety that is organic, that is literally in our veins and our blood, that is practiced by cultural carriers, that is practiced orally as we practice the Quran orally. And they were able to watch this juxtaposed against the savagery of what was called the democratic West representative, juxtaposed against an unprecedented sadism. And the resistance forced the unmasking of this, not just in Palestine, but all over the world. The degeneracy of what was being marketed as democracy, but was perversion. Perversion of culture and humanity and kindness and democracy and justice. And it was at that moment that Palestinians were not either victims that you feel bad for and were charity subjects, or were terrorists, but we became something more rich. We became something that, alhamdulillah, wastaghfirullah, people aspire to. We became the sort of communities that people wanted to build to survive COVID, to survive the impending environmental disaster. We are being studied, even for our culture, even for our relationship with faith. And we just were, 2 years ago, either victims that you need to raise money for, or terrorists that you need to step away from. And this is a massive victory. This is the source of structural change. So the question should become, how do we sustain that? Because if we don't make the connection between discourse, terrorism, and liberation, not just for Palestinians, because what I hope everybody has realized is that the danger to us is a danger to all of you, culturally, socially, religiously, economically, environmentally, etc., right? Is how do we sustain this? And I go back to the beginning. This is a RICO operation, racketeering, influenced, corrupt operation. Everybody has been subject to it. We must admit that everybody has been subject to it. And what is the plan of action for unwinding that so we can sustain that momentum, so we can build the structural shift for our future in this world and inshallah, our future in the akhirah? Number one is to begin approaching, whether we're engaging in UNESCO, whether we're looking at cultural sites, and this is what we do. I hope that this doesn't get published, right? Because we can't say some of this publicly. When we look at who stole an artifact, we should also be looking at all the relationships around the person who stole the artifact. When we have a UN rapporteur who is refusing to talk about the use of rape against men to try to destroy a nation, we should be looking at all of the relationships. And when we hold to account, look, I predicted the Trump win. I predicted, alhamdulillah, just by being a New Yorker and a New York lawyer who goes into a courtroom a certain way, I predicted everything that he was going to do, stopping the genocide, negotiating with Hamas. No other American president has directly negotiated with Hamas. This is a huge structural shift. And what did the negotiator say, Adam Bowler? He said, well, they're very nice guys. When was the last time any of you heard a negotiator say, Hamas is nice guys, they don't have horns in their head, and negotiations are working? This is a result of the resistance, because when they broke out of the Gaza prison, they broke out of the discursive prison. They broke out of the linguistic prison. And here they are, Hamas are good guys. Yes, they are good guys. This is a structural shift. And so all of us have to then pick this up, look at what they're doing and the Darvo and the trauma supremacy and say, la, la, la, no, sorry, yuk. This is not terrorism. You have it wrong. And we have a weapon. And the weapon, the most powerful weapon we have legally right now, is the ICJ advisory opinion of July, not on genocide, of July 2024 on the occupation. And they said everything Israel has done is illegitimate, which means everything that we do is completely legitimate, right? Within some boundaries, but legitimate and justified, right? Take that, right? In every space that we exist in. Power, I go back to the Hamas negotiation with Trump administration. Power only concedes to power. I have never walked in a courtroom wanting 10 million for my client and asking for 5 million. If I want 10 million for my client, I'm going to ask for minimum 30 million and let them negotiate me down. And I'd hope that when we engage with people that we are speaking to inside the UN, outside the UN, you ask for everything. And what is the everything that even the ICJ agrees with? Reparations. This includes my artifacts. I want everything that they stole from me and everything that they built with it in New York and in London and in Palestine. I want all of it. So when we say, give us the artifacts, we also want to say, you owe me money. You owe Turkey money. Turkey invested in this. You owe us money. Pay up, buddy, right? Whether we get it or not, the act of engaging with that level of power and making the demand is a structural shift. The psychological and the discursive is real. This creates structural shifts, right? Look at them as an operation. Name them. Name them. Subhanallah, they're never afraid to tell lies. And the most vicious lies, but we're afraid to tell the truth. That our people are right, they are correct, they are heroes, they are freedom fighters. Every one of them is tahir, right? We're afraid because somebody has said it. The most powerful thing I do to me in a courtroom is when my client is deemed the biggest criminal, I hold him. The most important thing I could do is hold him because now he's no longer. What Palestinians have dealt with that has made us weaker and everybody who's done it weaker is when we're accused, everybody runs and says, that's the different. No, we're different. They will come for everybody who looks like us. I don't want to go into the logistics of what are the laws and the cases. We can discuss that. I wanted to pose primarily this. No case and no cause is won by cowardice. And our cause is not just Palestine. Our cause is the ethical, moral future of the world. Our cause is our place and Allah. If we believe that this is a mission and we go home, that's our cause. If our people in Gaza can take down drones with fishnets, if our people in Gaza can attack tanks barefoot starved, then what are we capable of doing? And how, may I ask, are each of us leveraging our proximity to power? Everyone in this room is close to power. Lastly, cumulative, calculated, relentless work. Cumulative, calculated, relentless work. Calculated. We sit and we map and we test and we workshop, and those who can must invest in that work, right? And then we do it together. On that note, I thank you for lending me your time, your home, and your hearts. Allah yahmikum wa yirda alaykum. And may I see you soon in a liberated Palestine. And until then, in my second home in Turkey, ya Rab. Allah yahmikum.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And lastly, it's my honor to host a poet whose verse carry the resilience, pain, and the unwavering spirit of Palestinian people. Zeina Azzam.
Thank you again for hosting us, for having this amazing session, and I'm so honored to be on the stage, our imaginary stage, with Amer and Lamis. Thank you so much. I'm afraid my words are not going to be as amazing as theirs, but I'll share a few thoughts. In December, I live in Alexandria, Virginia, and every year they have a Christmas parade. And this year we have a group of people who are activists for Palestine. And we decided to have a float, a little truck with open, and we called it Christmas came from Bethlehem, or something like that. And we had Mary and Joseph, and it was all our Jewish friends, our Muslim friends, our Christian friends. Everybody was part of this together, and it really put us together. It was beautiful. We had Palestinian flags. As we were waiting to start in the parade, a man came up to me and he just looked at me and he said, "There's no such thing as a Palestinian." And he said it in such a mean-spirited way, and it was also in a way that he knew he wasn't going to be accountable to it. People feel real impunity to be able to say these things publicly. And later on in the parade, as we were going by the reviewing stand in front of the mayor and the city council, somebody else just told us to go to hell. And so it was, we've heard these things before, and you've heard these things before. But it made me think about how Palestinians are viewed in American society. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit and then talk about art. One of the things I feel as a Palestinian, or that I'm supposed to feel, is that I don't exist. Witness what this man said to me. And it's this, but this erasure is intentional. From comments I've heard to Israel's destruction of schools and universities and mosques and churches, and everything, historic places, museums. It's not only, the hospitals and everything, it's also the libraries. It's also our historic places. So there's this intentional erasure happening. Secondly, I feel like I exist in opposition to others. So if I stand up for my rights, I'm labeled as an anti-Semite. When Palestinians were interviewed after October 7th, the first question was always, "Do you condemn Hamas?" We were not allowed to have our own views about our own destruction and annihilation, because we first had to publicly acknowledge the importance of our oppressor's narrative and our oppressor's pain, not ours. We had to prove that we were okay to talk to, that what was paramount was not the genocide of people in Gaza, but the primacy of Jewish Israeli life over our own. I exist, but I have no rights. Even in international law, which Lamia talked about just now, and we've put our faith in international law for decades, but so often it doesn't apply to Palestinians, or actively, the superpowers are actively working against it. So we are not allowed to write our own history or practice our culture. It's okay to discriminate against us and to abrogate our First Amendment rights. Even if we are lawfully here in the United States and have not committed any crimes, we can be arrested by immigration and customs enforcement officials. And even there, we have no rights whatsoever. I watched the heartbreaking video today of Mahmoud Khalil's wife. She videotaped his being arrested. And she kept trying to get the ICE officials to talk to her. She kept asking them. She said that she has a lawyer on the phone, and they just ignored her as if she was not there. And, imagine being 8 months pregnant and watching your husband being hauled away and in handcuffs. Some other thoughts. So our history is ongoing. We are living our history from the Nakba and before the Nakba until today. We live in the present as we relive the past all the time. So we cannot understand the present without knowing deeply the past. And we need to know the experiences of past generations because these painful experiences keep being repeated. We're constantly told that the animosities in Palestine have been going on for thousands of years. And this is not true. The problem started in, as you know, the late 19th century when Zionist movement was born and started to grow. And we keep getting told that the situation is complicated. It's not complicated. What's happening in Palestine since the early to mid 20th century until now is ethnic cleansing. Zionists in Israel continue to oppress and displace Palestinians, take their land, kill them, and destroy their homes. And so it's not complicated at all. And through our words and our writing, we recreate our experiences, and therefore we recreate our homeland in our own voices. We write to record as well as to interrogate the reality we live in. We find a home in what our culture creators, like our poets and novelists and musicians and dancers and visual artists, what they give us. We build on their legacies to keep our identities and visions alive. This way, we document our struggles, we preserve our collective memory, and we co-create our homeland together. The diaspora community has different and important roles to play. But first, I'd like to say that we too, as Palestinians in the diaspora, we feel like we're trying to exist and live while horrible things are happening to our people. It's really hard. Our emotions and our sanity are constantly being questioned and interrupted and put to the test of erasure and silencing. I read a discussion recently about there's this thing called the poetry of witness. The National Book Award winner recently, her name is the Palestinian poet Lina Khalaf Tafaha. She said that the whole notion of witnessing is kind of a Western point of view, a Western frame. How can a Palestinian witness something that she's actually going through? She says that it throws you outside of your own culture. Even if you're far away, here, thousands of miles away, we're going through it also. May not be going through the actual war and the bombing, but we are viscerally connected to all Palestinians. So we are agents as diaspora Palestinians of bringing the voices of Palestinians in Gaza and throughout Palestine, throughout the refugee camps, to everyone in the world also. To lift up their writings and poems and arts and life experiences, to translate and tell their stories and keep them alive. And I know my friend Batul talked about the poet Rafat al-Arair, who was killed and with many members of his family in 2023. And he wrote his famous poem, and he says, "If I must die, then you must live to tell my story." So we have to tell our stories. I think often about, why do I write poetry? Why do we all write poetry? There's so many reasons. There's, you express yourself, you want to communicate your opinions, etc. But it's also to write your story and to let others know your story and to tell others' stories, to tell your family's story. So poetry has given me a way to imagine and communicate, to tell my story and to tell my family's story. Asserting my story is a kind of resistance too. People cannot question me for what I say in my poems, because this is my truth. This is my story. There's no, you can't attack me for it. And like you said too, we picked the same quotes. Mahmoud Darwish once wrote that every beautiful poem is an act of resistance. I'd also like to quote another Palestinian-American poet who's in his 20s. He's an amazing poet. His name is George Abraham. He says that it's imperative that poetry is just one tool in the process for Palestinian liberation and resistance against ethnic cleansing. So it is a tool, but it's only one tool. I'm going to quote. He says, "Poetry cannot stop a bullet. Poetry won't free a prisoner. And that's why we need to do the political organizing work as well. But if we cannot imagine a free, liberated world in language, how can we build one?" So I'll leave you with that thought.
Thank you, Zeina, for this magnificent speech. Well, now we are continuing with the Q&A session. And I want to ask the first round of questions, if you allow me, and then we can continue with the audience's questions. My first question to Professor Amer Zaher. You exist at a rare crossroads, both as a comedian and as a law professor. In many ways, the legal system and the entertainment industry are both arenas where narratives are shaped, distorted, or reclaimed. How do you reconcile these two aspects of your work? And do you see parallels between the way Palestinian identity is contested in legal frameworks versus how it is portrayed in Western media?
Well, first of all, a lot of people ask me sometimes, like, how'd you go from comedy, law to comedy, or something? And people assume that they're different. And they're really not. The number one skill that we teach people in law school, I teach at a law school too, and the number one skill we teach people is to take a complicated situation, learn all the facts about a complicated situation so that you can zero in on what are the important facts and then explain it in a very concise and quick way. And so comedy is the same thing, except we're trying to make people laugh while we're doing it. So both of them teach sort of methods of quick, concise, effective communication. So I don't think they're that different, but so it's really frustrating being like an educated lawyer and trying to make fun of the media at the same time, because they don't know, they get everything wrong and they don't know what they're talking about. Like everything we've been hearing for these last few days about Mahmoud Khalil. And, I want to be shocked that Americans don't understand that a permanent resident has the same constitutional rights as a citizen. But then I remember that we are the society of a game show called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? That nobody wins. So it's, we are sort of, as Americans, this just statistically, we're across the street from the UN. The UN has done studies on this. We are the dumbest country on planet Earth. Definitely the dumbest industrialized country. on planet Earth. And dumb countries and dumb societies are violent. And that's why they're killing us. And by the way, that's why we're not, like, we have a right to armed resistance, obviously, but we're just not that violent, you know? And the American literacy rate, the American adult literacy rate is 78%. The Israeli adult literacy rate is about 92%. The Palestinian adult literacy rate is 98%. Okay? So I guess it's very anti-Semitic to read. And they've now raided and shut down a Jerusalem bookshop twice in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, this all goes back. Let me tell you something. If the literacy rate in Gaza was 60%, literacy rate in Gaza, the Palestinian literacy rate is 98%, and Gaza it's actually 99%. Okay, so but let me tell you something. If the literacy rate in Gaza was 70%, they wouldn't try to kill us. They would find some other way, seriously, because they would find. But we are too smart for them, and this really scares the hell out of them. They're smart enough to know that they're not smarter than us, but they're dumb. So, and I've realized this, you know, just dealing with them. I deal with them a lot. So I hold an Israeli passport as well through my mother. Okay, my mother was born in Akka, which is inside in the 50s. So she was born with the passport, and so I got it about 10 years ago from her because she was able to give it to me, but I never wanted it. I just got it when they started returning me as an American. So I went to the Israeli consulate and I filled out a piece of paper and they gave it to me, which again shows me that they're not smart, right? Like, I'm not the person, like, you should not, they could have not given it to me, but they chose to. We're not dealing with smart people. That's my point. So we're not dealing with smart people either there or here. Like, let me show you how I knew. Sorry, I'm talking too long, but let me show you how I knew. So for those, has anyone here, raise your hand if you've been to Palestine before. Okay, so a lot of the Palestinians, maybe some non-Palestinians, okay. Are you translating everything? No. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So, okay. So, when you're leaving Palestine, leaving from the airport, if you're Arab or Muslim or anything that looks like us, there is a special like line for you when you're leaving, okay? Which again shows that they're like, I don't understand. You want us to leave, right? Why are you making it hard? So when you leave, there is a special line for you. So I was in this line like maybe 5 years ago, and there was me and two other Palestinian guys in this line, and they recognized me. And they said, "Hey, Amer, you're amazing. We love you. You're so funny." I said, "Hey, thanks so much." And I asked them, "What do you do?" I said, the first guy, "What do you do?" He said, "Well, I am a PhD in civil engineering. I have a company in London." I said, "Okay, cool." I said to the other guy, "What do you do?" He said, "I am a cardiologist. I have a clinic in North Carolina." I said, "Oh, great." And I wasn't surprised. You know, Palestinians were overachievers. You know, we've been doing very well. We come from a long line of overachievers, you know. No, we do. We come from a long line of overachievers. Jesus, Mary, you know, major overachievers, okay? So we're standing there and we're talking to each other, and then over comes this like 25-year-old like Russian, Ukrainian, I don't know what he is, some little white kid, 25 or something. He's wearing a uniform and he says, "Hello, my name is David and I am here to search you." I said, "Okay." And David put on a glove, and his job is to put his hand down our pants to search us. That's his job. That's his job. Okay? That's his job. And do you know why David does this job? To protect the state of Israel. Okay? He does this job. You have a son? Do any of you have a son? You have a son? You have a son? If that was your son's job, would you be proud of him? No. But that is David's job. And do you know why David does it? To protect the state of Israel. I'm a comedian. I go around the world. I tell jokes and they pay me money. This other guy was a civil engineer. He builds big buildings and bridges. This other guy's a doctor. He saves people's lives every day, but that's David's job. Okay? And David does it every day. And you know why? To protect Israel. And they, like, okay, do you know how much money he makes? Not a lot of money. He's a government employee. Okay, and they take 30% for taxes and insurance. Doesn't make that's what he talks to his wife about. That's what he, and you know what he finds? Nothing. And this is all supposed to be done so that Palestinians don't go there anymore. But David is touching more Palestinians today than he was yesterday. So people are going. So none of what they're doing is working, and they have built and that's. There's a woman in Las Vegas. She walks on the streets at 2:30 a.m. in a leather skirt, and she also does that job. Okay. But she makes $500 every half an hour. That's a good job. She has a good job. Not David. But do you know why David does this job? To protect Israel. They have convinced themselves. They have convinced themselves that David's job is a form of national security. And this is, so we have to understand that we are not dealing with a smart group of people. They have smart people at the top, just like every other, but their average people are, our average people are way better than their average people. And we're dealing with violent people. And people are much more violent when they're dumb. Okay? So, and when they know they don't have the truth. And so they're in big trouble. They've been in big trouble for a long time. And the end of Israel was always coming. October 7th accelerated it exponentially. But they're done. It's over for them. And they don't know what to do, right? They did the Nakba, which was ethnic cleansing of Palestine. And they've been obviously slowly ethnically cleansing us. But since then, they've tried everything else, right? Everything. Let's massacre this village. Maybe people will leave. Let's not give them jobs. Maybe they'll leave. All this kind. None of it has worked, right? The birth rate is triple the global birth rate, and the population rises exponentially. So they've tried everything. And now, with the genocide in Gaza, they're going back to trying the first thing they tried in 1948 that didn't work. Okay? So again, they are a failure. We have to stop talking about them like they're successful. They're a major failure, and they're stupid, and they don't know what they're doing. And frankly, if you just leave them to themselves, they'll commit suicide as a idea, okay? And it's already getting there. Because the most important thing is that we haven't gone anywhere, and we're staying. And I just came from Palestine 5 days ago, and the people are not going anywhere. And for everyone here in America and in Turkey and everywhere else, if you get your strength from watching the people in Gaza and Palestine, and I'm sure you do, yeah. A lot of us do. I want you to know that when I go there and I talk to them and they say to me, thank you for what you guys are doing in America. We see what everyone else is doing around the world. So you need to understand that they are also getting their strength from you. And so you need to keep going and understand the samud, the word you used, but also the stubbornness. The last thing I'll say is this. I was talking to a guy in Palestine about 5 years ago, and in Ramallah, and I said to him, tell me about yourself. He said, Amer, I have a PhD in computer science from London. I said, wow, it's amazing. What do you do? He said, we have a clothing store in the downtown. I said, man, you have a PhD in computer science. You could live anywhere in the world and make a lot of money and send it back here. He said, Amer, I will stay here in Palestine and fight till I'm free. I said, okay. I said, first, calm down. You know, I'm on your side. I'm with you. I said, what will you do when you're free? He said, when I am free, I will leave. Okay? So it's very simple. You want us to leave Palestine, you give us freedom. But as long as we know that there's a chance we won't go back, that's why the people of Gaza are not going anywhere, we will not go anywhere. And so they are done. They don't know who they're dealing with. And it's over for them. It was over for them a long time ago. Now they're starting to see it. So that's all I'll say for now. But we are winning. We won. It's over. We're just watching the long demise of them.
Thank you. And there is a short prayer I always do when I see or have to watch the atrocities on TV or on social media. فَاكْتُبْنَا مَعَ الشَّاهِدِينَ. Because I want to be the witness for the Palestinian people on the day of judgment. If it is the only reason I have to watch day and night all the murderings, all the horrible acts, then I want it to be in use for the benefit of Palestinian people. So this is my everyday prayer. فَاكْتُبْنَا مَعَ الشَّاهِدِينَ Inshallah. So let me one question for you. In addition to direct attacks on Palestinian heritage, we often see cases where Palestinian artifacts and cultural symbols are appropriated, commodified, or falsely claimed by others. From a legal perspective, what mechanisms exist or must exist to protect Palestinian cultural institutions, and what legal avenues should be pursued to prevent the theft and distortion of Palestinian history and heritages?
Thank you, Dr. Batul and Amer. I want to build on, because I know you heard me say it's not over, but the importance of the psychological state of mind when we say power concedes to power. And I'll tie this into Dr. Batul's. We go in, I've never been in a courtroom and apologized to a judge, even if I'm wrong, even if the judge is yelling at me. What I will say when I get yelled at is, thank you, judge. I will never say I'm sorry in a courtroom, because the psychological is real. And this sort of energy is really important. But I do want to clarify, it's not over. Unfortunately, the reality is that at any point, we could witness the absolute highest sort of mass annihilation. That is not beyond the realms of reality, unfortunately. Alhamdulillah for whatever comes, but it's within the realm of possibilities, right? I think we're all aware of that. So I think it's very important that we understand that we really are in the trenches. We are a part of this war of attrition. This whole concept of thousands of years does apply to one people, and that applies to us. Specifically going back to what you said, Dr. Batul, you know, I've been kind of developing, and I've talked about this for a while, about how return and liberation for Palestine is materially, scientifically, economically, safety, prosperity for the rest of the world. Why is that? Palestinians, and why are we so patient? And why are we so peaceful and poetic and pious? In a non-ritualistic way, by the way. Not in the same way that most people are, subhanAllah. We are the most colonized people on earth. No other people has been as long colonized as the Palestinian people. And in this period of genocide, you know, where we're thinking, I stopped crying, I think, within the first 2 months. And all I could do is think and analyze and watch where we're going to go next. It occurred to me that it's not that the Palestinians are being tested. It's that Palestinians are the test. Because the condition created by the empire that's colonizing us, and almost every empire, except for 2, have colonized us, is the story of the state of the world. It's the story of the morality of the empire. It's a story of the culture of the empire. It's a story of what are the conditions under which you exist. So when we are like this, you are like that. And we go back to the concept of shahada. There was only one song that I could listen to, and I didn't listen to music until the ceasefire, which is ala shahadi tbayana, wal mawla shahid alayna, right? We made our oath to martyrdom, whether it's witnessing or the act, right? And the Mawla is our witness to this promise. And that's the test, right? Is as you watch, what is the result of this watching? What is the effort that you're making aside from feeling the pain? Because we feel the pain, but we are the test. And we know Palestine is our home. Our ultimate home is elsewhere. Sorry, and I'll bring it back to appropriation and the law. And speaking truth, this is why I brought up shahada and the condition of the world. You know, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, at the beginning of the genocide, marveled at the fact that he believed that international law was time warped. He literally said international law was time warped. That's not true. International law, this alleged era, never happened because we never got what we were supposed to get when the UN was formed. International law and the UN betrayed us in 1947, betrayed us in 1948, betrayed us in 1967. In fact, it is a direct contradiction of itself, most of what the ICJ said in that decision that I told you is our biggest weapon. How can you say every Palestinian has a right to return if they're in the 1967 territories and not the majority of us outside? How do you say everybody has a right to go home, but you have Resolution 242? So this was part of the RICO. This is what I'm saying, is we have to be calculated. We can't say, oh, they betrayed us because no. It was a project. It was a calculation. So when we say, right, how do we address, how do you confront this? Because what the Israelis are going to say is we won it by might in 1948 and then in 1967. Well, the first thing that needs to happen is the deconstruction and forcing, right, the international system, including the legal system, to confront itself. We have a legal way of doing that. We have many operations specifically dedicated to doing that. But what needs to happen, remember, structural shift is a discursive shift, is before we go to the courtroom, everybody who has proximity to the UN needs to make this the norm. You know, one of the things before I started doing diplomatic work is I was representing former and sitting government officials, or my colleagues represented government officials. And when they would go to the UN, I would say, listen, I don't need anything from you. I want one sentence. Give me one sentence in the UN General Assembly. Give me one sentence on reparations. Give me one sentence on return. Give me one sentence on the contradiction of the UN when it comes to artifacts. We want the artifacts from 1948. So the most powerful thing I could say for the non-lawyers that they could do is, okay, don't worry about 1967 and Gaza, that's fine. We need you to talk about 1948 artifacts. We need you to talk about everything that's looted. We need you to talk about the factories and the bookstores and the cultural centers in the 1948 territories. We want it back. We're working on it. But we want everybody else to begin working on it. In the international system, it would be great if a case were brought specifically on this issue, including the 1948 territories, right? Not just the 1967 territories. That would be a brilliant case. National laws in the US, there are some. Are they going to apply here? No. We look at Europe for sure. I have to say that's not a priority for me. I do include it in our work in preparation for our demands for restitution and reparations. Absolutely. This is accounted for. We literally account for it. My partner organization just did intake going back to 1948 from 20,000 Palestinians in Gaza, just this year alone. This is a feat, and we're counting what was taken in 1948. So I think strategically for the non-lawyers, this is the most important thing. And then the other thing would be to have a state sponsor an ICJ application specifically on this, or a UN General Assembly if no state takes it. But making the claim and bringing this discursive is structural. Bringing this into the constant discussion, right? It's not just okay, that's fine. That's what the ICJ said today. That's not what they said in 1947 and 48, right? So bringing it back, really shifting that discourse. I think that covers it. Thank you.
Well, my final question is for you, Zeina. Actually, you talked about it in your speech, but I want you to elaborate it more if you want. Palestinian identity has been under constant threat of erasure through occupation, forced displacement, and cultural appropriation. How do you think poetry helps reclaiming and preserving Palestinian identity in the face of these challenges?
So I think poetry is so important. It's part of our heritage in the Arab world, and I'm sure it's that way with Turkey and maybe and other Middle Eastern countries. Poets are really revered. A poet will do a reading, and there'll be thousands of people who will attend. And it's been that way for centuries or millennia, actually. So I think it's really important to be preserving our poetry in terms of that part of our culture, and bringing it up to date. I know we always talk about, Mahmoud Darwish and Samih al-Qasim and Fadwatul Khan. These are some of the, early big figures in Palestinian poetry, and we should always be studying them. But we should also be lifting up a lot of the newer poets, the younger poets, and making sure that they are also read and listened to. I think it's part of our struggle and it's part of our resistance. And I think we should be teaching the young people, the younger generation, this aspect of our heritage. I know there are many teachers here today, and I hope you all include poetry in your curriculum. I'm sure you do. At this time, it's. I know I read a poem here last year. I didn't read it tonight. About Write My Name. I don't know how many of you have heard this poem of mine. In the beginning of the war, Palestinian fathers and mothers were writing the names of their children on the children's legs and arms. And I wrote this poem in the voice of a child. Write my name on my leg, mama. And this poem has gone viral. It's been translated into at least 10 languages. I think it's there's somebody who translated it to Turkish. Yeah. But it's also been translated to Japanese and Chinese and Dutch and French and Spanish and German. And there's a Japanese group that is making a children's book out of it now. Somebody in South Africa has, I have not a week goes by when I don't get something about some kind of communication about this poem. And I think the reason it has resonated so much is because it's about children, and it's in the voice of a child, and it grabs people. And I think these are the kinds of poems that, I'm not saying we should all be writing these kinds of poems, but we shouldn't minimize the reach and the the word I want to get, but the people, that it really reaches people's hearts across the world. Poetry can, and so I think that's the point I wanted to make with that. I think it's really important for people, for Palestinians in the diaspora, to learn Arabic and to read poetry in Arabic. I think it's really important. I've done that. We came here when I was 10 years old, and I did not have that high Arabic, kind of literary Arabic ability. I started taking classes in college and did a master's degree in Arabic literature, but it took a lot to do this, and I did it as an adult. And I have to say, it's like the best thing I've ever done. It's not feasible for everybody. Yeah, thank you. It's not feasible for everybody to do it, but there's something about, reading our poetry in our language that I think is really important, if people are able to do it. And I recognize that, my own children can't do it. So I know there are limitations, but it is something that I think would be really beautiful to do. And I work with an organization called We Are Not Numbers. And it's an organization of young people in Gaza who are writing in English. And they are paired with mentors here in the United States and in Europe. And we help them, we mentor them to write their essays and their poems. And more of them now are writing poetry, which is really beautiful. So I guess what I want to say is it's important to support the young people writing their poetry, whether it's in English or whether it's in Arabic or not. I think it's really important to be doing this. And, we have to stand up against the erasure. We have to stand up against Israel, destroying our culture. We have to keep going with that. I know we're much weaker in terms of bombs and military might, but it's something we have to keep we have to stand up and keep standing up to it and holding on to our culture.
Thank you, Zeina. And now I want to pass the mic around to the audience, and if there are any questions or statements you would like to make, we want to hear that. Yes, please. Anyone? To ask question or statements? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Jazakumullah khair for this beautiful night, and to Kadim for inviting us all and for making us feel so welcomed. And just sitting here, I'm overwhelmed with emotions, with happiness, with sadness, with so many emotions that I'm feeling. But I do see the end coming as well, just like they're saying.
Yeah.
You know, because the world has seen, you know, they have been exposed. You know, Israel is not going to last that much longer, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And that with our faith, you know, in Allah and everything that we believe, inshallah, that it will come back and we will have our rights. And we should never, ever let anyone take our rights away from us. And as they said, Palestinians are very, very, very resilient. And we won't give up. And we will teach our kids to love their land and to know that that's where they come from. I was born and raised in the United States myself, educated in the United States. And I stand for educating our children. This is actually my daughter right next to me, who's a teacher of English and history. And, you know, she fights for Palestine with her writing, with her poetry, with her teaching. And the one right next to her is not my daughter, but my daughter. And over there, Halima, we teach our children to stand up for Palestine, to speak up, to be resilient, to be vocal. We need to show the world, you know, we don't have to prove ourselves anymore, but we need to keep working harder and harder and harder to fight for that land back. It's the most beautiful place on this earth. It really is. And I will go back every single time as much as I can, even though I don't have citizenship there. But I don't care. I'll fight with the Israeli soldiers on their checkpoints every time I go. And I'm proud of doing that. I'll fight with them in Al-Aqsa. I've done it just this past summer. And I will stand up for my country as much as I can. Because it is our country and no one's going to take it away from us. We are Palestinian. I don't care if I'm third or fourth or fifth generation. I'm going to teach my kids and my grandkids. And you're going to teach your kids and your grandkids, and it's going to continue, inshallah. And we have people like you standing up for us. And we appreciate that so much. You know, just sometimes, like I was, you know, kind of feeling everything everyone was saying before, where, you know, where are you from? Where are you from? I was a professor in residence at William Patterson University, where I, you know, was training new teachers. And so I was at a public school, Weehawken High School, and I was pretty much the only like hijabi in the whole building, you know. So when I walked in and, you know, with my badge and everything, they're like shocked. Oh, you're a teacher? Like, it was a shock almost. And then once they got to know me, of course, you know, I actually was able to show them what Palestinians are about, you know. And I was proud to be there. I would walk in there, but it took time for them to actually accept me as a person in the building. Where are you from? Palestine. Oh, you mean Pakistan? No, I mean Palestine. You mean Pakistan? No, Palestine. And then you have to go back to your history. Oh, 48, whatever. This, that, the other thing. And you have to keep talking. That's the only way we're going to get the message out. And I think the message is out. And with people like this beautiful woman, Lamis, and this wonderful Amer, and beautiful Zeina, and all of you here, you know, we're going to get Palestine back together.
Yes, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you so much again. Anyone else? Come on.
Anyone else who wants to comment or?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Kifah. I'm an educator. I work in a high school, and I'm also an adjunct professor. I think in this room, I'm reminded of Mahmoud Darwish that Palestine is indeed a metaphor.
Yeah.
but it's a metaphor that lives in our hearts and our souls. And this room was really a testament of that for me today. I thank each and every one of you for loving Palestine the way you do. Many of you have not even stepped one foot inside of Palestine, and you hold it dear to your hearts like you would your own children. I think that's collective liberation. And once we have that, combined with the discourse of storytelling and never forgetting your roots, we are an unstoppable force. So thank you.
I just want to thank you all once again. And the feeling of comfort that I felt today, just being able to say all of the truth without hesitation, that's very unique in this time that we're living in. Like you said, there's always that fear to, you know, hide your full truth sometimes. You know, no matter what, we sometimes feel threatened, like some people will observe us as a threat wearing the kufiya or things like that. But the level of comfort that you get in a room like this, where your full identity is loved by everybody. And like you said, we are a litmus test for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So our liberation will equal the liberation of everybody, inshallah.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you guys all. You guys have always been like role models for me. You know, these poets and authors and comedians, right? Growing up, we go to the protests, we hear your voices, and you guys, whatever you say filters down into us, and then we can share it with everybody else. So thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I feel like my colleagues already expressed most of my thoughts. I do want to thank you, first of all, especially those of you who are non-Palestinian. This means so much to us. The second thing is, jazakumullah khair to the organizers. I feel like this gathering was a source of healing for me and my mother. My mother's parents were actually displaced from Safa, northern Palestine, in 1948. So just being here, I also felt a mix of emotions. Thank you so much for that, and you'll be in my prayers.
Check.
Thank you very much, Betül Hocam, Salih Hocam, everyone, Nurbanu organizing for this event, and many thanks for being us with this evening. Actually, I was reminded of a friend of mine called Aya during my university years. She's Palestinian, and her grandmother passed away during our university years. And she told me the story that during Nakba, she leaves her homes and she puts all her, dearly belongings into a wardrobe, locks it, wears a necklace, and till the day she died, she never removed that necklace, like for decades. And she said, Rauda, my grandmother today died with that necklace, wearing with that necklace after decades. So I always remember that. And and also there's one thing, her grandmother, like Aya told me, a very lovely Palestinian childhood song from her grandmother. This is the only Palestinian childhood song I know. Baba ve mama yuhibbuni. Right? Allamani wa rabbani Allahu halil Baba ve mama nur al uyuni. Allamani wa rabbani Ba nur al uyuni. Yes, so I hope we will sing the song in Free Palestine very soon, inshallah, ya Rab. Ya Rab.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Actually, I am also from the Kadam team, one of the executive board member and a professor of social and cultural anthropology, actually. That's why what you are, like, I have so many Palestinian students and colleagues back in Turkey and in the world, like so many people I am working with, but what you are explaining here was much more what I am doing all the time in terms of narrative, like collecting and oral history. And it was 10 years ago when I was doing the first oral history seminar in university for Nakba Day. And we were having our Palestinian families who already migrated from Palestinian to different countries and then Turkey. And we were witnessing their like stories and their belongings, that how they are just embodying their pain, but at the same time their stubbornness and their actually suhud as well. I mean, it was just for me as a kind of researcher, as a professor as well, but as a kind of person working for human rights and disadvantaged groups, and also persons that, as you were saying, like, I mean, the people we are dealing with is dumb, but they are discursively very powerful in a, like, from a dumbest point of view, actually. And because they are doing it for a long time, from colonial times, that they know it. What they know it discursively control and make the social engineering very good. We know it, we never have been colonized, but we are colonized, brain-based in Turkey, you know. We are colonized in different ways. That's why we know the discursive part very well. Not the militaristic one, but the discursive one very well. That's why, I mean, it's very important to share these stories and like walking in the same road. Thank you for being here, and I hope that we will be working together and doing more.
Yes, inshallah.
Inshallah.
My name is Zeina Gül, and I call myself a nomad, but my heart is always with Palestine. Sometimes we never force ourselves to talk about something, but talking is not good enough. We have to act together, and I right now feeling all hearts in here, my heart. So if we put together our heart, words and acts, we can do it, everything, whatever, for Palestine, for the world, for our future and our kids. Subhanallah.
Yes. Anybody else who wants to comment? Yes, please. Would you mind passing the mic to him?
This young lady inspired me. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ruwaida. I'm Palestinian also. I was born in Al-Quds and came here as a child. Unfortunately, I'm not an artist. I'm in healthcare. But I'm also a bit overwhelmed with what I'm feeling. I'm feeling happy, sad, safe, not safe. But I wanted to say a few things that are just kind of flying through my mind, some thoughts I'm having. So growing up, you know, in a Palestinian home, everyone wanted to be either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. But what I learned as an adult is that the artists are the ones who move the iceberg most gracefully. I think the artists are the ones who reach the most amount of people in a gentle and peaceful way. So as an adult, I have a better understanding and respect and appreciation for the artist. So I thank you all for that. The other thing I wanted to share was that as a community, more than ever, I think it's important that we take care of each other, because this is a marathon, and there have been times where I personally got very tired and had to like step out and hope that my family and friends and people who loved me and loved Palestine would step in for me. And I thank them, and I'm grateful to them for doing that, because this is very hard work, no matter what your role is in what we do. And then the last thing I wanted to share is that our joy, our happiness, our love, our laughter is our resistance. Yeah. They don't want to see us happy, and we have to find time to enjoy whatever we can so that we replenish ourselves, we stay in gratitude and always say alhamdulillah for the blessings we all have, because every one of us has something. And the image that keeps coming to my mind was the couple who got married. I think there were two nurses in Gaza in the middle of all this. So I remind all of us of that if they can find joy and happiness and love and peace in the middle of all that chaos, then we have to find it for ourselves so that our fight continues. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Yes.
I want to say some words, but my English not good because okay. I'm a journalist. I went to Gaza 2 times. I went to Palestine 10 times.
She's an activist. She's a Palestinian activist. Yeah. Yeah.
Az önce anlattıkları hikayeleri ve masalları çok defa herkesten dinledim. Ama onların burada anlatılıyor olması, Amerika'da anlatılıyor olması, dünyada çok daha fazla insanın bunları duyuyor olması bence çok kıymetli. O yüzden hepsi muhteşem şeyler yapıyorlar. Önlerinde saygıyla eğiliyorum. Söylersen güzel olur.
She says that I have listened many times to stories and the narratives that you have told many times, but hearing your voice here, telling the stories and the text here is really meaningful, especially at United States and close to the UN. Since we are here for a Commission on the Status of Women, we will raise our voice together here. So it's really meaningful, she says. And yeah, I really respect you and I greet you with my all respect. Yeah.
So I think this kind of concludes our session. Thank you all. And Dr. Saliha was supposed to come back. Something urgent came up, but I think she's not able to come back. So she is passing her regards.
Last verse. I want to add something.
Okay.
And I grew up with these stories, actually. My friends said that, and 30 years. And I joined in 2010 Mavi Marmara. I was there. You too?
Oh, no, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I didn't see you. That's why I was shocked now. And then I tried to tell this story to everyone, actually. And I started to write my thesis on Palestinian refugees in Lebanon because, you know, I can't go to Palestine anymore because of Mavi Marmara.
She was banished.
Yeah.
By Israeli authorities.
And then it passed, you know. After 12 years, I tried to enter again with my friends, all of us, 50 women, we were together actually. But they arrested me again. And they asked me many questions. And again, they sent me back to Turkey. Still, I am trying to tell the story, not because of Palestinian, because of all of humanity. And this is our duty, actually. And I'm proud of you. Thank you.
So, photo? Yeah, okay. Okay.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Close on something funny.
Yeah, sure, I will.
No, or because you're going to be fun, I'm going to be serious. So you should.
Okay,
go
you
last.
go.
Yeah. So they could leave on a light note. So I just wanted to say, you know, one thing I was very excited. I'm so grateful to Qadem, Turkey and the Turkish people. I think preserved my sanity. I think aside from those who've spent a lot of time with us, I think it's difficult for people to understand what this did to our bodies.
Yeah.
My body actually changed. We changed on a cellular level. Permanently. And so this, you know, it's so nice for me to hear that this is healing for you. But long and short of it, I just wanted to say, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad on all of you. May God accept from you everything, and may you not only have a home here, but also with the shuhada in the highest heavens. Well deserved. We love the Ma'abir Marmara people. I just advised on a legal level and then was advising on maritime laws and helping bring other governments into the Freedom Flotilla as well. But Gaza, you can get into it, and we expect to be one of the first delegations in line for Gaza. So inshallah, all of you who are banned will please, Noor has my number, so to coordinate through her, email is best for us. And I do want to say, yes, we have a big struggle ahead, but we had a huge victory, not just the discourse, but this was the first time Palestinians returned, and that was truly the most magnificent thing. And the last thing I want to say is, I know that Qadam, this is the week, the Status of Women Commission. Sorry, I don't know the name of the week. Forgive me. And I understand Qadam's work. And I think it's important to understand also the role of Zionist Western power in the dynamics of violence against women and the dysfunction that it causes within men. That these are maladies that are really much more modern productions as a result of the violence that you're witnessing the manifestation of in Gaza, including the Islamophobia, which is targeting women in Europe especially, but all over the world. All of this is tied. So we're happy to discuss with Qadam. We also struggle with the issues of, we support women, but I'm sorry, we don't believe in Western feminism. And we protect the family, and what protected us is our culture and our family. And we have a different definition that is equally fair and just. So we'd love to coordinate on that. And I think that's it for me. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Batul, Zeina Habibitna, Amer, and all of you. Allah yarda alaykum.
Well, this has been like a long Arab goodbye, like you're trying to leave. No, I mean, it's like you're trying to leave, They
do, we don't.
We have this saying in Arabic, I'm sure, everyone's heard it before, it's ahlan wa sahlan, which means welcome. But what is it?
She tells all the thunder.
Hoş geldiniz, got it. Thank you. I'm feeling left out. I mean, I don't know why they got beautiful and I got wonderful. So, ahlan wa sahlan is this beautiful Arabic thing that we say, and it means welcome. It can also mean something, when people come to my dad's house for the first 3 hours, he only says ahlan wa sahlan. You have a beautiful house, ahlan wa sahlan. The food was good, ahlan wa sahlan. The kids are so smart, ahlan wa sahlan. But then there comes a time around 10:30, 11 o'clock where all the men are sitting in the salon. Do you have this room also in Turkey? This is the room that's like cleaned every day for no reason. No one ever uses it. It's covered in plastic all the time. Yes. And they're all sitting there and they've already done everything and it's getting late and nobody's saying anything anymore. And it's completely silent. And my dad leans back and he leans forward and he says, ahlan wa sahlan. Which this one does not mean welcome to my house.
Go away.
This means it's time to go. And then the Arab guy sitting next to my dad, he understands what's going on. So he gets up and he says, Abu Amer, it's getting late. We should go. And then this is the only time we do this. My father lies to him. No, stay, sleep over. This is a lie. And they start threatening each other. If you leave, I will never come to your house again. It's this cultural stuff that lets us sort of
linger,
be comfortable in who we are and comfortable in the truth. And I want to say, to wrap up here, is that we Palestinians have been in a constant operation of reclaiming our history and defying our erasure, right? I mean, they said the old would die and the young would forget, and it's been 77 years, and there's like 6-year-old kids in New Jersey that tell you the name of their village that their grandparents got kicked out of. So like, it's not working, And we also have to reject a lot of the colonial, racist, Orientalist narratives, especially the ones that say, you know, Christianity belongs to America and Europe and Islam belongs to the Arab world and the Middle East. Of course, this is not true. Christianity is foreign here. It's native in Palestine. Jesus was one of us. You know, it's important to understand that. So not to buy into these idiotic frameworks, because this is what, you know, I go around every show I do. I always start with saying I'm Palestinian like Jesus, and he's one of us. And of course, the Israelis, who never claimed Jesus in a million years, now are saying, no, Jesus was a Jew. And of course, Jesus was a Jew. But one of the ways they erase us is apparently Jews can be everything. Hungarian, Polish, Yemeni, Iraqi, Syrian, but not except Palestinian. It's the only thing they can't be. So it shows you how scared they are of us. And so there will be very soon, I promise you, there will be very soon a direct train from Jerusalem to Istanbul. We will all be sharing fresh fish on the beaches of Gaza together. And I know that we love each other and we support each other. And let me say this, the Israelis, the Zionists, they are not having meetings like this, okay? The biggest lie they tell about us is that we hate people. In fact, the Israelis are full of projection. So we are a people full of love. And everything we do is driven by love. They are not having meetings like this. They don't, and I'm just like statistically, they don't have artists. They don't have narratives. Their meetings are, how do we craft this lie? How do we buy that guy? That's what their meetings are about. And so I know we love each other and we support each other, but I don't know if we tell each other enough. So I'm going to do an exercise that I do at all my shows and all my meetings. I would like everybody to look at the person on your right and look at the person on your left and tell them, I'm very happy to see you tonight.
I'm very happy.
Very happy to see you tonight. Good? You're very happy? Now I want you to look at these people and tell them, I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you.
Yes. And now I want you to look at these people and tell them, I love you.
I love you.
Bil halal. I love you. Bil halal. Bil halal. Because we are a people full of love and we are a movement full of love. And so we always lead with that. And when you go to Palestine, you see that with everybody. So let's make sure that we keep talking about it's working. And for everyone in here tonight, please take that message again, that it's working and the people back home see what you're doing and they see that it's working and they take strength from it. So keep going. And as always, free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Thank you. Please sit. I would never go to your home.
This doesn't. By the way, this doesn't work with white people. One day, my dad invited our white neighbor over the house, and it was getting late. It was like 10 o'clock, and the white guy got up and he goes, I should get going. And my dad said, no, stay. And the white guy was like, okay, fine. 10 minutes later, my dad freaked, get the hell out of my house. Don't you understand that our culture, when we say stay, it means go.
Thank you for this amazing night. What I see here is the several Davids here, and the history has already repeated itself, and we have already defeated the Goliath. So, thank you. Alhamdulillah.